Hey guys, so in these troubling times, I hope you can hear me. If not, I'll need to redo this intro later. Um, One of my favorite things has always been supporting local industry. You know, buying from the mom and pop shop, the small, like 3 or 4 chain, like in the general area type of businesses. Because I think that putting that money back into the community directly, not only helps to stimulate it, I think it helps to cut that and bring something unique. Because those smaller locations like can offer you something that the big chain restaurants and businesses just simply cannot. So, like for example, Starbucks has like one at every single corner. Like down the road, there's like 2 locations, and they're putting in a third, all within like the same 2 or 3 miles of each other, and it's ridiculous. I've always preferred my local coffee shop, not only because it's local industry, because well, I quite frankly think they make much better coffee, and they're a lot more unique. During Now, during times like what we're going through right now with the pandemic, a lot of these smaller businesses are hurting. And obviously, I don't know their exact numbers. They may be doing just fine because they're actually a really popular place around here. But to do my part to help out, I decided to get a few things, and I figured it'd be fun if I could make a small video of it, kind of, showcasing it. And it's really all just sort of one thing. So first, I got some of their blend here. I think it's just called their Brazil. I don't really know what blend they use for their coffee, but I decided to, I got some. By the way, my local coffee shop is called Spring Park. I don't know if I've mentioned that. Spring Park Coffee Company here in Green Cove Springs. If you're in the area, you have no doubt heard of this place. And they roast all their own coffee. They bring in their coffee. It's actually roasted, in the same building. So the coffee is roasted on site and brewed on site, which I think it just makes it, truly unique. So it's roasted, ground, and brewed all directly in the same building, which is one of my favorite parts about it. Plus, it just tastes amazing. I also got this, looks like some sort of drip coffee maker. I'll do some research on it and, tell you guys exactly what this thing is called, because I have no idea. And I bought some coffee filters as well as a coffee. This coffee is called the Irish Wedding, by the way. It's white chocolate, Irish cream, and almond. But enough about that. So let's go home, get this stuff unboxed, and brew ourselves some coffee and see what it tastes like. So, I guess I need to transition, don't I? And we are back home. I'm actually in my room because I need to get an area set up for doing these sorts of things, and I don't really have room in my kitchen right now. But let's go ahead and get started. So first, let's go ahead and open up the box and see what we got in here. This is not the device. These are coffee filters for the device. Okay, yeah, it does say Chemex, so you guys can read that. Chemex bonded filters. So I don't actually have it. I'll be back. Okay, now I have the actual device. I went back to my coffee shop and I got it. Luckily, it is a local coffee shop. So it's called the Chemex. I thought that was the name of the brand, but I looked it up and apparently I don't know the name of the brand. And so these are the filters designed specifically for the Chemex. Let's open it up and see what we got. Well, it's definitely a beautiful looking device. Seems pretty simplistic, just basically a huge glass pitcher for making drip coffee, and I think this thing here is just for grip and aesthetic, but look at that though. And that is really pretty. Okay, so let's go ahead and see how you make coffee with this thing. And my entire desk is now taken up. I guess I don't need these coffee filters because I bought the other ones. 1 rounded tablespoon, so about, I'm just going to do full 2 tablespoons. Let's go ahead and look at the grind. She said she ground it to about what the Chemex is supposed to be. Yeah. So it's a pretty, just blowing coffee all over this. It's a pretty coarse grind. Gotta make a couple cups here. So just gotta wait for the water to finish boiling. That was a good book. Oh look, the water's boiling. So while this is brewing and I'm slowly adding more water, let's go ahead and talk about grind size and why it's important in coffee. Now, there are numerous methods of making coffee. You know, there's regular drip coffees and all sorts of different fashions from what you typically make, you know, in conventional coffee makers, similar to, you know, what a lot of people use nowadays, which is Keurigs. There's espressos. My personal favorite that I usually do is called a French press. There's also mocha pots, which some of you may confuse for like the old-fashioned coffee makers. There's making Turkish coffee, all sorts of different forms, and all are delicious in their own right. Now, each of them has an appropriate grind size. A lot of things affect the flavor of coffee. Now, grind size doesn't really affect the flavor. What affects the flavor is where it's grown and the roast and everything. But the grind size affects how it brews. You know, this is a bit more coarse than I would use for, say, a French press or making regular drip coffee, and you know, super fine, and certain methods such as espresso and Turkish coffee are fine, powdery sort of coffees. In my general experience, the longer the process, the bigger the grain size should be. For example, a percolated coffee is probably about the longest process that I could think for making coffee, because it's constantly boiling up, settling down, and then boiling up until it's been come through enough times that it's been appropriate. And that's pretty coarse stuff. And having an even, consistent, appropriately sized grind is going to affect a lot of things in the coffee. One of the biggest things it affects is, well, if it's been extracted properly. And that all depends on the machine. If I were to use like an espresso grind from a French press, which has a very fine mesh filter, then it would just turn into a sludge. And if I were to try to use regular coffee to make espresso, then it wouldn't be extracted nearly enough. So that tiny little shot would be just like having a shot of regular coffee, as opposed to really, really strong like espresso is supposed to be. And so every single method has its sort of preferred grind size, and if you're someone like me that loves collecting devices like this and trying out different types of coffee, then the best thing you can do is buy yourself a grinder, which I have yet to get. Once I do, I'll go over it a bit more. But just buy it and grind and keep adjusting up and down the grind until you find like your perfect setting for making your coffee. And I think you'll know once you find it. But general rule of thumb is the longer the process, the coarser the grind. This obviously takes a bit longer than drip coffee, so if you want, you can just look at what standard drip coffee grind size is about and get it a little bit coarser than that. But that'll have to wait for its own episode. Okay, so that definitely explains the wooden thing, because this glass is hot, which makes sense because it's boiling hot water resting all around the edge and dripping through the center, so that's why the wood thing is there. And I like this little leather knot thing that they put so you can take it off for more appropriate cleaning. Alright, so that coffee is a sludge, and I think it's pretty much all the water's come out of there. I didn't bother to measure it properly, so I don't know how the proportion is. I think I know I don't know if I got it perfect or if there's too much water or not enough, so we'll see. But let's go ahead and I'm gonna pour myself a cup. And I'm just gonna taste some plain black coffee to kind of see how the body is. Not much in the way of a crema on this method, but I almost broke it. Oh, that would have been so bad. This stuff is so hot and that was right over my lap and my desk. It's really hot. Oh man, that is really hot. Water holds its heat immensely well. Okay, I'll be back in a second. It's a little bitter compared to a lot of other coffees. That could be, I mean, this is... Now this is a darker roast. It could be the fact that I didn't have enough water. Matter of fact, it could be the fact that I didn't have enough water. Could be in the grind size. Also, normally for these types of methods, I add a pinch of salt, which I did not, because the salt can help to knock down the bitterness. I think I would definitely try this, probably on a lighter roast. I'm going to experiment with this some more. I'm not going to ride it off just yet, because I didn't really bother to measure it properly, and I do take my coffee with cream and sugar, so that would probably definitely help. The Chemex coffee maker. It's a very pretty looking device. Actually, it looks just like a vase or maybe any sort of a pitcher. In fact, you know, if nothing else, it could definitely double as that. I think that the price was a bit sharp. I did buy it from a small coffee shop, so that definitely, you know, may have been like a bit of a markup, but it's really just a glass pitcher formed specifically to have the coffee filter sitting down there. It could definitely brew a lot of coffee. As far as maintenance, it takes a lot more maintenance than, say, it takes about as much as I would put into a mocha pot personally, but a lot of people just set those on the stove and let them go, and it takes more maintenance than I think a French press, because the French press you just kind of put the coffee and the water in and let it sit and then press it down. This you kind of have to pour in a little bit of water, let it go down, pour in a little bit of water, let it go down. I don't hate it. I just think I need to play around with it some more before I find a preferred method. Would I recommend you get this? If you're into artisanal coffee the way I am, like you like trying different styles and different methods and just like collecting devices like this, then yeah, I would recommend it. If you don't really care that much about coffee, like if you're the type of person that will just drink anything, or you know, you don't really even like making your own coffee that often, you just normally go to a coffee shop, then I could probably tell you to steer clear of this, because it is a bit of a hassle and it does cost a bit much for all the work that you need to put into it. So it's a little underwhelming, but I'm glad I tried it, and I don't regret buying it at all, because I'm sure that once I figure it out and once I put some cream and sugar into this coffee, it's going to be just amazing. So that was pretty much all I got. Once again, I got this and the coffee, which it is a great shop. Definitely go check out if you're in the northeastern Florida area, if you're in like Jacksonville, whatnot. Try to stop by Green Cove. Go to Spring Park Coffee, because they are a phenomenal coffee shop. No matter what, it's a small local business that's been there for years, and I would hate for something like this to cause them to, you know, go out of business. I doubt that they will, but I'm just doing my part to try to spread the word and try to get a little bit of influence going in there. But enough of that for right now. I will see you guys next time. Let me know what you think, any ideas that you have, if there's a certain device or whatnot that, you know, you want to test out, but you don't want to like spend the money on. Let me know, because I'm really bad at this money, and so I'll probably end up buying it anyways. That's all I got for you guys right now. Everyone stay safe out there, stay healthy, change your gloves often, wash your hands, stay indoors, and as always, hey guys, just a quick update on the Chemex. In my outro I said that maybe it has something to do, actually I don't remember exactly what I said, But I commented a few times that maybe it had something to do with the grain I was using while I was so bitter. So I went back and I tested it with a different kind of coffee, the kind that I normally use for my French press, and it tasted much better. So it's not that the roast that I had was bad, it's just the fact that it was really dark. So it probably would have been a good roast for espresso coffee, or if you really like seriously bold, dark roasts, then it would have been good. But because I was using it for the Chemex, it didn't really work. So just so you know, if you do want to get the device, but you're worried about the bitterness, it has nothing to do with the device itself. It has all to do with the coffee that you use. So that was pretty much it. So go out, and if the Chemex looks interesting to you, go ahead and buy it, and just make sure that you use appropriately roasted coffee. I would go with probably a medium roast at most for this in particular application. That's all I got, so I guess I'll say peace twice.